Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Tim Hanna. We're going to change it up a bit this week, and we're going to begin with some high school football in the Spoofhounds. Let's take a look at the Class 3 District 8 bracket. The Spoofhounds sit as a top seed at number 1, undefeated 9-0 coming into this game Friday against Cameron. Next week, they're going to take on the 4 seed in St. Pius. But before we get to that, we have the highlights of last Friday's game. We want to bring back one of our favorite, and well, my favorite segments. It's Coach's Corner with Tim. Now, I don't have the bucket hat, so this is going to do for today. We're bringing on Devin Albertson. Devin Albertson's here, the X106 sports analyst, also weekend sports kickoff, my guy. Devin, pleasure to have you here.
Hey, good to be here. I love Bearcat Update.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to real quick talk about the Spoofs, okay? Spoofies 10-0 following the Cameron game. Real shellacking, I should say. They beat them 92-6 the first time. The second one was 70-6. So kind of talk about that game real quick and just let's get an overview of the season for the Spoofhounds. They are undefeated and looking pretty good.
Well, Maryville did what they always do. They ran for 361 yards this game, allowing only 91 yards total. They just do what they always do. They only allowed 9 touchdowns in the year now, and they're scoring a bunch of points. So Maryville just dominating the MEC like they have the past 4 years or so.
What do you see from them? Is there kind of a fear? I mean, especially with this upcoming game against St. Pius, that they're going to run into a roadblock like they have the last 2 years. Obviously, they won state 3 years ago, but then they kind of tripped up Oak Grove, one of the teams they lost to in the past 2 years. Is there a team ahead of them that could possibly be scary for the Spoofhounds?
Well, looking at this district they have here for Maryville, Richmond, the 2 seed, is ranked in the top 10 in the state at number 4, so they could be a possible hiccup. And Chillicothe is also 8-1 in the year. They're ranked in the top 10. They're the 3 seeds, so those 2 teams will make in the semifinals, and they'll play most likely Maryville in the district final, which could be a good game for Maryville. And then if Maryville gets past that game, they have to face probably number 3 Center in the quarterfinals again. So another tough matchup in the quarterfinals for Maryville. Really tough side, but when they get through that, it's pretty smooth sailing to state.
Well, let's take a look at these highlights. We can kind of talk through some of the stats, Devin, so let's get those highlights up behind us here. Now, the Spoofhounds, again, as I mentioned, taking on the Cameron Dragons. It was their second matchup against them of the year. The first game, of course, 92-6. And it was pretty bad this time. The starters only in for 2 series as they do what they always do. You said they only attempted 4 passes in the game. Kind of talk through some of the stats, the Spoofhounds, as they put a lot of points on the board.
Oh, yeah, Oglesby was 2 for 4 with 37 yards. And this touchdown right here to Spencer Morrison, and just a nice little passer from Maryville, good quarterback, starting for 3 straight years now. And just the running game from Maryville, as I said earlier, they averaged over 8.5 yards a carry, just ran right through Cameron all night long.
Was there a leading rusher on the night for the Spoofhounds? It kind of bounces around a lot between Bruckner and Dowis.
This week, actually, Tyler Houchin, 7 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. He was the lead guy. He played a lot in the second half, and they pulled the starters. So he did a good job for them from Maryville.
So with that win, Devin, as I mentioned before, they're going to be taking on the 4 seed St. Pius. So let's kind of talk about that game real quick. What do we expect? They played them week 2. They beat them pretty bad, but it was the smallest margin of victory for the Spoofhounds?
It was the 3rd closest game Maryville's had this year, and it was a 36-0 game in Maryville week 2. So Maryville's pretty much their closest game this year was week 1 at Lawson, a 26-point win over them. So St. Pius did play them close. They're going to have a little more film on them. So see if let's see what they can do this time against St. Pius. At home again, so it should be in front of the home crowd, but Maryville should take care of business here against St. Pius.
Now we're going to turn away from 11-man football to something a little more exciting, some would say. 8-man football in the state of Missouri. I know, Devin, you and me talk about it a lot. Kind of what favorites you got this year? I know North Andrew set number 1 overall. Stanbury wants to repeat. Unfortunately, they've lost 2 games this year. Kind of what teams are you really looking at this year to maybe take the first title in Columbia, right?
Yes, they'll be in Columbia this year, and North Andrew definitely the favorite to come out of it. They're in District 2, probably the deepest district, so they get out of that, they're most likely going to state because they also have St. Joe Christian they're facing this week, and then South Holt, Nolly Holt, Mountain City also ranked in the top 10 this year. So if North Andrew gets out of this district, they have an inside track to state. Other teams looking for is Southwest Livingston out of District 3, and then, of course, Rockport out of District 1, and the 1 seed there, and also Stanbury and Worth County playing this week. So a lot of good teams 8-man this year, but most likely the favorite. My preview for the state championship game is probably going to be North Andrew versus Rockport. A little off the wall there, but Rockport got the 1 seed in their district, and I think Stanbury and Worth County a little bit down this year, and they have to go through District 3, which is either Southwest Livingston or King City. I think Rockport's probably the strongest team in that little group of teams to go and probably face North Andrew for the state championship.
Yeah, I would agree. Rockport, especially with that upset of South Holt Nottaway Holt this year, kind of a shocker, really. Rockport, not a bad team, but no one expected them to be, as good as they have been so far. And with just Southwest Livingston, probably the best team in that District 3 that they would face. That seems like a pretty manageable win for Rockport.
And they've already played once this year at Livingston. Livingston did pull away with the win there, but I think they played again. Rockport fell behind 2 touchdowns early in that game. They came back only to lose by a touchdown. I just think Rockport has the most complete offense and defense between all the teams left on that side.
All right, real quick, let's talk about probably the most important game. Well, there's 2 really good games this week.
Yes.
It's going to be North Andrew and Christian, St. Joe Christian, and then also Stanbury and Worth County. Worth County already beating Stanbury this year. So let's highlight those games real quick before we go to break.
Look at Worth County Stanbury. Worth County beat them in the last game of the year at Stanbury 44-42, a real barn burner there. Should be a good game. This game will be at Worth County. I think Stanbury's actually going to come back and beat them in the rematch. I just think Stanbury plays a little bit better, more dynamic offense. Worth County has a really good running back in Isaac Alarcon. But other than that, they don't really have a diverse offense. Stanbury has 2 or 3 backs plus their quarterback. So I think Stanbury's going to get that one. And then if you go to St. Joe Christian, North Andrew, earlier this year, North Andrew beat them 30-12. But St. Joe Christian, this was pretty much their Super Bowl to say they always game plan for North Andrew. So this would be interesting to see how Christian and their coach, Mark Jewell, has been there for years, how he games plans for the Cardinals in this one.
Well, thanks for being on today, Devin. We'll have to have you back sometime soon. We're going to take a quick break right now, and when we come back, stay tuned. We talk Bearcat football and Bearcat volleyball right here on Bearcat Update. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Tim Hanna. We're now going to turn to volleyball and your 17th ranked Lady Bearcats as they were in action Friday and Saturday last week. On Friday, they take on the lackluster Southwest Baptist Bearcats. Cliff Scott was on the scene with all the action. Let's take a look. The Bearcats came into this one 19-2, while Southwest Baptist, unfortunately for them, 3-19 coming into this one, 1-10 in conference. And it definitely showed who the better Bearcats were in this one, as a big block there from Alexis Williams sets up a score. The Bearcats would sweep Southwest Baptist in this one, not giving up a single set. Sarah Donatella on that one there. Miranda Foster with the kill. Statistically, the Cats have dominated kills all season with a hitting percentage around 20%, or a successful kill percentage of 20%. They'd win that one 25-16. A team that dominates on the boards. They'd average 6 blocks in this one. Pretty impressive showing for the Bearcat team, who's really come together this season. There, a big kill from Alexis Williams and Miranda Foster with that one. Miranda Foster, Alexis Williams, and Darcy Sunderman have really led this team offensively with kills. Now, of course, Jackie Becker back from injury after missing some part of the season, as they took that first set 25-22. Darcy Sunderman there off the block. She saves it. And Miranda Foster will answer with a kill of her own. This team, a senior-led group there. Jackie Becker, a fellow senior, along with Miranda Foster, have shown great leadership this season and really dominated for the Cats. 25-16. They sweep them 3-0. Following that 3-0 sweep, the Cats would turn around and they'd play Missouri Southern Lions the following day. The Lions came into this one 4-20 and 1-10 in conference. Another dismal team from the MIAA. The Cats would dominate for the second day in a row with 37 kills and average 6 blocks a set. They'll be back in action Friday in Topeka, Kansas as they take on the number 15th ranked Washburn Ichabods. Now fall ball is in full swing and the Bearcat baseball team is preparing for their spring season. Cody Cooper headed out to Bearcat Field to get some details on their upcoming year.
This morning we had weights, and typically we have weights every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And what we do, we typically go in at 5:50, we have one team, and then 6:05 we have another team. And we split up to groups because we have about 60 players roughly, and it's easier that way. So typically what we'll do is we'll start off stretching, we'll do some calisthenics, just some dynamic work and all that. Make sure we're really loose and stretched out. That way we don't get hurt in the weight room and later on. So we're kind of going lighter this week because we're doing the World Series here at the field, and it's our last week of outdoor practice for the most part as a team. And so we had some front squats. We did a little bit of dumbbell benching. We also did a couple of foam roll V-ups, and we did some single leg RDLs, and then we did some med ball throws. So keep going strong and keep up the hard work.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as hitting goes, hitting's probably one of the hardest things in baseball. You know, you hit 3 out of 10 times and you're successful. So it's something that we're out here working on every day. This whole fall, the pitchers have been pitching really well. We've actually struggled to hit them, so we tip our cap to them. But we finally gotten to the point where we have our fall World Series, where it's a 5-game series between 2 drafted teams, and it gets real competitive, and it's a lot of fun. And we're just, you know, just trying to play our best and get ready for the season to come in the spring.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at Bearcat football. Stay tuned. You're watching Bearcat Update here on KNWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. The football team would be in action Saturday in St. Charles, Missouri, celebrating Lindenwood University's homecoming. We have an interview before the game with Adam Dorrell, head coach of the Bearcats. Let's take a look at that before we get to the game action.
I think it's important that you be very balanced. I think if you get heavy in the run or pass against them, I think you're kind of playing into their hands with what they do schematically. They're not a big blitzing team, so they don't open themselves up to downfield balls, and so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us the last 2 weeks. We've gotten deep vertical balls to Sean. You know, certainly you're going to try to game plan that a little bit, but we have to be patient and not try to force those throws if they're not there, because they're really predicated on playing a 2-shell, keeping everything inside and in front of them, and they make you want to try to go down the field and earn them. That's probably the biggest thing that I see from them right now is you just got to be patient a little bit.
The Lindenwood defense would be no factor for the Bearcats as they would play spoiler and dominate the Lions through the air, passing for 358 yards. They'd go for 529 yards of total offense. Kyle Zimmerman set a career high with 350 yards passing on 26 of 39 attempts and 2 touchdowns. He'd also tack on a rushing score. The Bearcats were perfect 7 for 7 on red zone opportunities. Defensively, they forced 5 sacks, giving up only 261 yards and 12 points. The game would end final 47-12, and the Bearcats would move on to 8-0 as they return home this Saturday to take on the Pitt State Gorillas for this year's homecoming game. Be sure to tune into KNWT Channel 8 for live coverage of the homecoming parade before the game. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Bearcat Update. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at BearcatUpdate_8 and like us on Facebook at Bearcat Update. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch us every Monday through Thursday at 6 right here on KNWT Channel 8. Until next time, I'm Tim Hanna.